Hello everyone, my name is Vivek Raj and I'm going to give presentation on the case of Prosecutor versus Delalic. The Prosecutor versus Delalic, commonly known as the celebici case, was a trial held at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. The trial addressed the event that occurred at the Celebici prison camp during the Bosnian War from April 1992 to January 1993. The defendants in the case were Delalic, Drovoko Musis, Hajim Delalic, and Ised Landju. They were charged with various crimes against humanity, violation of law or custom of war, and grave breaches of the Geneva Convention. The case drew significant attention due to its focus on the systematic abuses committed in the Celebici case camp. Now we will deal with the fact of the case. The case focused on the event that occurred at the Celebici prison camp during the Bosnian War from April 1992 to January 1993. The defendant in the case were Jeznil Delalic, Droko Musis, Hajim Delik, and Ised Landjud. They were charged with various crimes against humanity, violation of the law, custom of war, grave breaches of Geneva Convention, including torture, murder, and cruel treatment of detainees. The trial commenced on October 10, 1996 and lasted for a significant duration involving the presentation of evidence, witness testimonies, and legal arguments. The case examined the activities and responsibilities of the accused individual at the Celibici prison camp, where detainees, primarily Bosnian Croat and Bosniak civilians, were subject to inhuman treatment and abuses. The prosecution presented evidence alleging that the defendants establishment, operation, and oversight of celibacy camp and responsible for the crimes committed against the detainees held at the prison camp. The case involved and the issue in this case where the case involved allegation of crime against humanity. The defendants were charged with acts such as torture, murder, and cruel treatment of detainees at the celibacy camp. The trial addressed the legal elements and requirement for the establishing crime against humanity, including the systematic nature and widespread nature of the alleged crime. The case also examined violation of the laws or custom of war. It considered whether the defendants had breached international humanitarian law by subjecting detainees to inhuman treatment and other offences during the Bosnian War. The Celibacy case involved allegation of grave breaches of the Geneva Convention. The trial explored whether the defendant had involved the protection afforded to detainees under the conventions, particularly regarding the treatment of prisoners of war and civilians during the armed conflict. The case examined the issue of individual criminal responsibility of crime committed during armed conflict. It sought to establish whether the defendant Jeznil Delalic, Droko Musis, Hazim Delik, and Ised Landjo could be held accountable for the crime allegedly committed at the Celibici prison camp. The issue of command responsibility was addressed in the Celibici case. It sought to determine the level of responsibility borne by the defendants as commander or superior for the actions of their subordinates and whether they had failed to prevent or punish crimes committed by those under their control. And what is the judgment in this case? The prosecutor was a Dedlick, Musis, Delic, and Danjo Celibici case is one of the most complicated cases to be brought before the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. It involved the joint trial of our defendants, three Bosnian Muslims and one Bosnian Croat, who were charged with 49 counts covering grave breaches of the Geneva Convention and or violation of the laws and custom of war for killing, torturing, and sexually assaulting detainees in prison camp in central Bosnia known as Celibici camp. The Celibici case was particularly difficult joint trial because the four accused occupied very different positions. Lanjo was a camp guard, Musis was the camp commander, Delik was the camp deputy commander who took over the Musis as commander, and Delalic was the coordinator of the Bosnian Muslim and Bosnian Croat forces in the area and later commander in the Bosnian army. Delalic, Musis, and Delic were charged with command responsibility, and Delic and Lanjo were charged with individual. In the light of their different positions and the charge against them, it was problem relating to contradictory defense strategy and the protection of the defendant's right to a fair trial would be raised. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges against them. The trial started on 10 March 1997 and come to a close on 15 October 1998. Over 1,500 exhibits were admitted into the evidence during the trial, and transcript of the proceeding ran to more than 16,000 pages in the English version. The final judgment was rendered on 16 November 1998. Musis, the commander of the celibacy camp, was found guilty of command responsibility for inter alia murder, act of torture, and ill treatment. Delic and Lanjo were found guilty of individual criminal responsibility for, among the other things, willful killing, torture, and cruel treatment. One defendant, Delalic, was found not guilty on all counts because the prosecutor failed to establish command responsibility. Prior to and during the trial chamber issued a number of interlocutory decisions which addressed a variety of complex procedural issues in addition to the run-of-mill procedural issues that have been or could be raised in practically every trial before the tribunal. These interlocutory decisions are focused on part 1 of the case note on its part. The celibacy judgment, which will be discussed in part 2 of the case note, made important contribution to the development of law on determining the character of an armed conflict, the standard for the imposition of direct criminal liability for aiding and abetting in the commission of a crime, the criteria for the imposition of the command responsibility, and the element of several crimes within the tribunal jurisdiction. Thank you very much.